Hi, everyone. It's Evelyn Ackah. Thank you so much for joining me on the Ask Canada Immigration Lawyer podcast. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of having my colleagues and friends on with me today to talk about their financial management and wealth management business. First and foremost, we'll introduce you to Obed Maurice. Obed, say hello.
Hey guys, pleasure to
So
meet you.
they know who
Happy to
you
be
are.
here.
And then
Yeah.
we have Simon Wong. Simon.
Hey, nice to meet you guys.
So listen, I'm going to give you a quick bio of the two great guys that are joining me today. So Obed is a chartered professional accountant since 2020, and he's also a CA and he's also a CFP, and he is the principal of Maxim Advisory Group, which is an integrated financial planning and wealth management organization. And his business partner is Simon Wong. And Simon is highly accomplished as well. He has an MBA, he has a CFP, he has a CLU, he has a CIM, he has an FC. I don't even know what these all are,
Too
but
many
Simon,
credentials. It's a lot.
so many credentials. And he's known for his ability to transform sophisticated financial concepts into practical, actionable strategies for business owners and high net worth individuals. So, welcome to the podcast, guys. I'm really happy to have you both with me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah,
But
we're
listen, I
excited.
wanted to have you on because you deal with not just Canadian wealth or US wealth or business owners and entrepreneurs. You also deal with the cross-border piece, which kind of ties into the immigration work I do. Before we get into that, I want to know if you can tell me about how you got into the financial planning world, because this has been a bit of a pivot, at least I think for you, Obed, like more recently as opposed to the last 2010 when you became an accountant. How did you make that shift from accounting proper into this unique niche area?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it was really, I guess it was painful, like through pain mostly. In the accounting profession, you're really encouraged to focus on like just the tax and the problems right in front of you. And I'm just cursed by asking bigger questions, about people like, why did you start your business? And what are you trying to accomplish next? And, what are the big goals? And it turns out in professional practice, we don't do that enough as a good proper CPA. So just over time, I started doing more and more of that work, and I learned clients just love it more and more. And Simon and I had the opportunity of working together, kind of some firms that did planning and accounting, and we realized
Mhm.
that was really just kind of the future of things. So I went all in mostly because I couldn't help myself from just focusing on that single problem. So yeah, it's been an awesome ride.
Couldn't help yourself, just
I
asking too
couldn't.
many questions.
You know what? I really do. I'm cursed with curiosity.
It's a good problem. What
It
about
is.
you, Simon? I mean, you've got so many credentials. You've done lots. You've written a book, Affluence, which I just received. Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading it. Thanks to Amazon. And the fact that you'd write a book and you're also obviously educating individuals through the work that you do. How did you end up in this area? Is this what you always thought you'd be doing?
Yeah, you know what originally drew me into financial planning was seeing how often successful people still really felt uncertain about money. Really early in my career, I spent a lot of time around professionals and entrepreneurs who, from the outside, appeared very, very successful and they had thriving businesses, strong incomes, nice homes, and these growing investment accounts. Yet, when I sat down with them, a lot of them were asking the very same questions, and they were like, "Can I retire? Do I have enough money? Am I paying too much tax? Am I going to be okay if something happens to my business?" And they always felt like they were not making the right decisions. And that was the realization that really changed how I viewed financial planning is that I realized people don't need, let's say, another investment product or another insurance product. They just need clarity. They needed someone to look at the entire picture rather than just one piece. And today with my role, it's really just trying to help clients integrate that whole tax planning, cross-border advisory, investments, retirement planning, insurance, estate planning, business succession into one, so it makes sense for them essentially. So and honestly, the most rewarding part of my job is really trying to help these people move from uncertainty to a little bit more confidence in their finances.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you help both business owners and individuals with Maxim Advisor Group. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, Obed, I'll start with you. How do you describe your approach to financial planning? What kind of philosophy do you bring besides lots of questions? How do
I just
you
do.
how do you How do you differentiate yourself and what you guys do
For
in
sure.
your
I do
group?
ask a lot of questions.
It's
But I think
important.
Simon,
Yeah.
yeah, Simon captured it well. It really is, it's integrated, so who owns the big picture would be one of them. And then like the human side, like the behavioral side of money. So I think integrated a lot of people we meet, even at like the highest levels, they really have like a really fractured team. Like nobody owns like the blueprint, if you will, like the master plan for these people. So that's one thing we're extremely good at is operating across all those domains. And thankfully, Simon has a bunch of credentials and I have some credentials and we have good partners like you, Evelyn, that can help fill in some of the legal and immigration stuff. But developing that master plan across all the technical domains like tax, estate, and all that, and then making sure that we're able to execute. So the planning needs to be actionable. It needs to be understood by the client. And I think a lot of our competitors or our peers would be mostly looking at just retirement projections. They're not looking
Mhm.
at like the step-by-step plays that people need to make to move closer to their goals. So
Mhm.
pretty proud of that.
That's great. No, I think there's a real gap as a business owner. I've had many, many, many,
Hmm.
many accountants. I can tell you, always looking for the perfect one, but understanding it's not just accounting, it's the tax strategy, it's the wealth management, it's retirement planning, it's succession planning, thinking about your children, insurance. Like, not a lot of people or organizations can bring all that together. So I've had to do what many people do is like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit, and it's
Hmm.
and it's never integrated perfectly. So I think it's really amazing what you guys are selling and offering and really sharing in terms of education for your clients so that they
Oh,
understand they can get the whole thing.
one thing we're really proud of is that like every single like one of our clients has one of these master plans, a financial plan, a blueprint. We don't do any one-off advice, which I think we're really incentivized to do if you're selling investments or you're a partner at a CPA firm. It's this very kind of siloed style of advisory. And we're, I
Hmm.
think, really proud of like when we get to work with great people and they get to work with our firm, everybody starts with the master plan and the strategy. And it's a very deliberate process that we have, and maybe we'll get into that later on in our
Sure.
conversation. But that kind of discovery and the formulation of the goals and the plans is very thoughtful, deliberate, intentional. And I think a lot of people's experience is kind of like one-off advice where they're
Yeah,
kind of like treated as, hey, you're just a year end or you're just an investment.
exactly.
And that's something we really pride ourselves as that philosophy. And I think Simon and I were both pretty surprised. We started this practice a couple of years ago, and kind of surprised at how well that's been
It's
received.
growing. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there's a need in the marketplace, clearly. So,
Hmm.
Simon, can I ask you, why do you think some high income earners still struggle financially? I mean, you must see behind the curtain, you see a lot, and they may look on paper or in person with the house and the business and the cars and all that. But why do you think some of them struggle financially in terms of looking forward and planning better?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions most people have is that high income automatically creates wealth. I actually remember a friend I used to work with early in my career in finance. Every promotion came a reward, a nicer car, a larger house, better watch, more expensive vacations, and again, from the outside, everyone thought he was doing great. But every time I talked to him privately, he felt financially trapped because every increase in income was matched by an increase in lifestyle. And that's something we see all the time. Income creates
Hmm.
opportunity, but it doesn't automatically create wealth. Wealth is built when income is consistently converted to assets, and it has to be done through a plan. I often tell clients there are four stages of money: learning how to earn it, learning how to keep it, learning how to grow it, and learning how to protect and transfer it. And I find that most successful professionals are become really exceptional at stage one. Very few
Hmm.
master the other three stages, and the results that they can earn tremendous incomes while still feeling really, really financially insecure at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that. Obed, is there something you want to add to that?
No, I love it. I mean, just the anecdotes of like I started off working in the rigs years ago, and there would be guys making 300-400 grand a year that literally were living paycheck to paycheck. Like you couldn't
Oh,
believe it. And I
that's
think we even
amazing.
see that now in the profession, Simon, when we meet, physicians, attorneys, professionals of all likes. And you see it the opposite as well, where people who are making more modest incomes that have figured out how to be more intentional with their money. So I would just echo your observation,
Hmm.
Evelyn, that earning a pile of money does not mean you're wealthy at all.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So let's talk a little bit about your style and kind of how you approach clients. So we've talked about some of the mistakes or what separates financial habits and wealth versus, those who don't know how to manage their wealth. But when somebody comes to Maxim Advisory Group, what is your process when you talk about your plan, your overall plan? How do you, if it's me coming to you as a small business owner, how do you onboard and get them through all of your stages so that you feel like you've wrapped your arms around all of the things that they need? Simon, do you want to start?
Yeah, yeah. I find that again, this is where when, I worked at the accounting firm, I really realized most people receive advice in silos. The accountant focuses on taxes. Then the lawyer focuses on their legal stuff. The investment advisor focuses on investments. And the challenge for a lot of clients is that financial decisions don't actually happen in isolation. A tax decision affects retirement. A retirement decision affects estate planning, and an investment decision is going to also affect tax planning. So our goal and our approach really starts with understanding the client's goals, their concerns, and helping them coordinate every financial decision around those goals. Our objective is to really help and ensure all parts of the financial plan and the different professionals that they work with are all moving in the same direction and they're all coordinated essentially.
Okay. And so, Obed, in terms of what you guys offer, tell me about what do you have people all in-house or partners you work with? How do you offer them this whole package
Hmm.
deal for the insurance, the wealth management, the tax, the audit, all the things that you do?
Yeah, well, hey, let's not get crazy with the audit. I'm gonna
No
cross, I'm
audit.
gonna
Okay, no
cross that
audit.
one
Sorry,
out.
I just got away with the tax.
But you know what? We do it. We actually do it accidentally, like stereotyping. I hate when Simon introduces me because he's like cross-border CPA and stuff. But I'll answer your question in a second. But jokingly, we do stereotype a lot of, and we do it accidentally, saying, "Hey, accountants do tax and audit and all that." I don't. Thankfully, I got out of that. But
Hmm.
regarding like the team, we have portfolio managers in-house or partnered. We
Yeah,
have actually a tax attorney just joining us. We're working
right.
externally with them right now, but we're able to kind of recruit those people in insurance advisors in-house. Simon and I are both, well, I'm a CPA. He has his MBA in accounting, so both strong in tax and accounting. I
Yeah.
think the things that we're kind of outsourcing right now, I guess, would be estate planning would be external, but otherwise we have like a full complement of everyone we need. And then when it goes beyond that scope, like immigration attorneys are obviously huge right now with the political environment. People are either inbound or outbound, depending on, where their life takes them. But
Yeah.
incredibly important to go through that proper process of understanding, we ask people all the time, who are your attorneys? How are you working with them? So some external as well, but part of our financial planning process that Simon commented on is actually figuring out like who is on your team, who needs to be on your team. Do you need us to source that person? Do you have someone that you'd like to source? But a lot of times we have these, cool plans. They're very, detailed, but execution is always in the back of our mind. And
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time handpicking our partners. You're one of them, obviously, Evelyn, but the people we bring in-house as well. We just, finding the people that can operate across those domains is incredibly hard. And, I'm probably most surprised that being, almost like a quarterback of people's financial lives is almost a full-time job. So
Mhm.
hand selected, we keep them accountable. And I think that's something that people really value.
Yeah, I think it's a great offering because I don't see a lot of that out there and the way that you guys describe it and package it and provide, and
Hmm.
especially because you're boutique, you don't feel like you're lost in the big world of some of those big shops that you're a number or a
Yeah.
file as opposed to a business owner, an entrepreneur, a client. Of eventually, sometimes clients obviously become friends as well, and so
Yeah, for sure.
because you know so much about them, and so. One question I have is how can business owners balance reinvesting in their company while building personal wealth? As you know, this is something I'm dealing with. I was telling you I've got 15-year-old twins. They're
Hmm.
very expensive. And it's this constant struggle of how much you're going to keep in the business and what you're going to take out and then dealing with the taxes. So Simon, just very high level, because I know we're not giving any tax advice here, but just in terms of how you would approach this if a client asked you, generally speaking.
Yeah, this is one of the most common conversations we have with entrepreneurs. And, honestly, I always tell them the answer is balance. Early in a company's life, most capital may belong in the business. That is often the highest returning investment available to them for that capital. But, as profitability grows, there should be a deliberate strategy to build wealth outside the company as well. And I often tell clients that diversification applies to entrepreneurs in their business as well. The business may be your greatest asset, but it shouldn't be your only asset. And that might involve some corporate investments, holding companies, maybe individual pension plans, moving money into RSPs, TFSAs, and just having a plan for that. And the goal is not to just stop growing the business. The goal is to make sure your entire future isn't dependent on that single company because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we all work for ourselves. Our biggest
Mhm.
concern is, oh, what's going to happen when we have a bad year or something happens to one of us, we break a leg or we get hurt. And you got to always be prepared for the worst sometimes.
Yeah, thank God for lots and lots of insurance. As business owners, I think it's really important. Um, what should business owners start thinking about when it comes to like succession planning, Obed? I'm in that same boat. I'm not going anywhere, but if I were
Hmm.
in 10 years, what should I be looking out for?
Hmm. I mean, we should always start immediately for sure. And I think the reason is like there's technical reasons, right? Lifetime capital gains, income splitting, like those types of things, sudden events that might cause succession to happen. But I think there's a simpler reason is that the more we put on our succession hat, the easier our job is as owners. It's kind of selfish a little bit that
Mhm.
when I take that viewpoint in our business, which is hard to do, that we then start to hire the right people and we delegate and we properly fund, our business. So if we're always thinking like, hey, let's get this thing ready for sale now, our job actually gets easier. And I know
Mhm.
as business owners, it's a bit of a slog, especially when you're starting out. And like I think the key is to not let that happen for 20 years, right? Like I get the first 5 or 10 are going to be tough, but the more
Mhm.
we can take that mindset, I think the quicker we build businesses that maybe we don't even want to sell at some point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the best thing is to build it, knowing you
Yeah.
could sell it, but you don't necessarily need to or want to,
Hmm.
because you're enjoying it. What about insurance and risk management? As a business owner, I feel like I'm insurance up
Mm.
the wazoo. It's really important. And recently, one of my colleagues in the States was highly recommended getting EPLI insurance because there's so much litigiousness these days, I would say, from whether it's employees or other things, even if you've got other insurance. What do you think is important about insurance and risk management, Simon, and overall financial planning?
Honestly, I think risk management is absolutely foundational for financial planning. Most people think planning is all about maximizing your returns or reducing your taxes. I would argue actually it's equally, if not more important about minimizing catastrophic risks as well. Insurance is one of those, I guess, few tools that are available that allows us to transfer risk. Like, if a physician is earning 500,000 per year but becomes disabled, the financial consequences are pretty devastating and enormous. And likewise, if a business owner passes away unexpectedly, there can be some serious implications for the family members, the employees, the business partner, the creditors, and insurance isn't really exciting. And Obed doesn't love that I'm really talking about it. So I end up doing quite a bit of it, or one of
Yes.
our other insurance
It's
guys does.
sexy stuff. Come on now.
But it is one of the most powerful wealth preservation tools available. And the purpose isn't to create wealth. The purpose is to make sure an unexpected event doesn't destroy everything and derail the plan you spent decades building. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a really important. Now let's talk about retirement because I'm sure people come to you and they're far away from it in their mind, and next thing you know, they decide they want to retire. So, how do you know when someone is really ready to retire? I mean, I know when you're doing your big planning, they've thought about this, but I mean, like, I don't know when I'm going to retire. I think a lot of times more and more people are like, I might work 1 day a week or twice a week, or I might get more partners so I can play golf like you're not able to get to, Simon, as much as you want to this summer, like so when does somebody know it's the right time financially that they're ready to retire? I know there's no magic number, but what do you think? Either one of you.
I think this is actually one of my favorite questions because
Hmm.
people always focus on the wrong metric. they always ask us, and they always focus on how much should I have for retirement. They focus on account balances. And honestly, retirement isn't about how much you've accumulated. It's about whether your assets can support your lifestyle, what your actual spending is. Like we often will have clients that, can retire with less than $1 million, but that's because they're spending $50,000. But
Oh,
me and Obed have done this before. We've had clients that want to retire with a spend rate of over 5 to 600,000 a year, and
Mm,
that is much more difficult than most people think. So, you know, that's because retirement is ultimately a cash flow exercise. We need to understand spending, taxes, inflation, CPP, OAS, pensions, investment
mhm.
returns, and longevity. And once we understand those variables, we can definitely determine whether retirement is financially sustainable. And in many cases, people aren't lacking the money, they're just kind of more lacking the confidence to spend that money.
Yeah,
mhm,
or even like how they want to maybe curtail some of the spending to live the way they want to live. And now people are living so longer lives. I feel like they need more and more money to kind of keep going in that lifestyle that they want, right?
mhm. It's
Interesting.
funny. People have like these people use mental math a lot. That's one thing Simon and I have learned a lot. Like we run into people who legitimately they'll be, 75 years old and have, $20 million of net wealth and legitimately don't know if they can retire. They're like, I
Oh
don't
my
know if I could
God.
stop working. Like they literally haven't done the math. And the same will be true like Simon's other example where they, like they literally just haven't done the math. They want to keep living as if they're making 500 grand a year, but they only
Mm,
have say $800,000 saved. So I mean, there is like a technical answer to it, and we love it because we know that the crunching the numbers is something someone like Simon and I can do in half an hour. Like
yeah.
we can make the budget balance. The real questions are, what are you going to be doing with your life? What are your actual goals? What kind of gifting do you want to, give to others? Do
Hmm.
you even like a lot of people we meet are strivers. They're not necessarily looking to sit on a beach and drink cocktails. It's a very psychological exercise. I notice, the
Yeah.
math is one part, but the behavioral is completely different. And I think that's where we have a lot of, fulfillment in our work is because we start to get, really clear on like, what do we actually want our life to look like? We're starting to have some optionality. We've saved a
Hmm.
little bit of money. Maybe we have a practice or a business that we're looking at selling. And those questions become like really like they're in your face. It's not just this kind of old school idea of like sitting on a beach somewhere. So a lot of
Yeah.
unpacking to do, which as you know, with all the questions I have, it's right up, right.
Do you find that people are choosing maybe not to retire in the traditional
Yeah,
way?
for
Like
sure.
I don't know what retirement would look like for me. I think, I have friends who are like, I think I'm going to retire because I'm at that 60 or 65, and then they realize they're really not ready. It's not a financial
Hmm.
exercise, but it's a mental exercise.
For
And it's like,
sure.
what are you going to do to fill that gap, right? Do you ever
Hmm.
come across that in
Oh,
your work?
for sure. I love it. I mean, helped a couple people retire a few weeks ago, and it had never dawned on them, this couple, that they would be spending 24 hours a day together. And they're like, hey,
Oh
we're
my
going to
God.
retire. You're like, what are we going to do staring at each other all
Go
day?
back
Oh,
to
maybe,
work.
yeah. So maybe we should kind of look at more of a staged process, and everyone will have a bit of a
Yeah.
different answer. But I could say for, say, professionally trained people like yourself, Evelyn, obviously very talented, smart, hardworking. These are people that don't just flip a switch and turn off. They're going to be engaged in some level. It might be mentoring the next generation. It might be teaching. It may be practicing 1 or 2 days a week just to kind of, keep the brain active. And I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of science around that these days that things have evolved from sitting around on a beach playing pickleball and
Oh,
drinking cocktails to staying engaged in our health and our mental health and our relationships and communities. So I
yeah.
think just the idea of retirement has evolved a lot. And I think people that have, let's call them matured or aging, actually have more to give than ever now that we're kind of in the knowledge era and AI and everything.
Hmm.
I think, I don't know, Simon, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, but
Yeah.
I think things have evolved a lot.
What do you think, Simon? Anything to add?
No, I think that was a really good explanation, Obed. I don't think I can add any more to that, but no, I 100% agree with Obed on that. No.
Yeah. What about, okay, so wealth management and passing wealth down to the next generation. So,
Mm.
I've had some friends who had to deal with this, and sometimes it goes really well and sometimes it doesn't. So when you've been the family member that's created this wealth and now you've got kids in their 20s, 30s, 40s onwards, what are you doing and how do you see succession planning through the wealth transfer happening in families, and how do you help support them in that exercise?
Yeah. I think the interesting things is that I don't think a lot of families talk about this. They spend a lot of time preparing their assets, but they don't prepare their beneficiaries. And I think families should be discussing values, expectations, and legacies. And many families spend decades and decades building wealth, but they never really communicate what they want that wealth to accomplish. And I think the most successful families have conversations long before any inheritance occurs. And again, me and Obed have seen families with excellent legal and tax planning struggle because the next generation they just weren't prepared, and they didn't the right expectations weren't set, and and sometimes it leads to conflicts. And again, the families that do end up succeeding do focus on education, communication, and responsibility long before the wealth is actually even transferred.
Mhm. No, I think that's a great answer, Simon. I mean, I've seen it work both ways, and sometimes they go crazy, and others really kind of keep the legacy and keep that family wealth, and that, it goes down to many generations, and other times it doesn't. So I think the education piece is huge. So do you help with that as well? Do you provide that kind of coaching or help with the conversations to happen?
We do. I'm going to do a shameless plug here, but my wife's actually building a homeschool curriculum right now for
Cool.
kids on financial literacy, and that's really
Oh,
getting them when they're young, right? Things
so
like
important.
values and what is money, and exactly what Simon said of we're just not having the conversations, and I think we have there's a rule like money shouldn't cause harm, right? And if people are inheriting large amounts of money and they don't know how to hire an advisor or, manage the complexities around, all the responsibilities that come with that, I think you can do a lot of damage to someone.
Mhm.
So getting those values and passing on more than the money is the values and the thought process and the knowledge. So that's kind of a little plug for ourselves. And
That's
then I,
great.
I can actually think of the case that Simon's probably thinking about in his mind right now of starting to get next gen involved early. Like we really, if someone wants to do financial planning with us, we often insist that their spouse join us unless they kind of fight, kicking and screaming. We can do it without, but let's have the conversations, right? And then let's start to be thinking, what happens after we accumulate all this wealth, next generation, getting them involved, and it gets really messy if we don't. I've seen it go horribly wrong. So I
Yeah.
think we're front and center to say, hey, we're going to build this optionality. I like to refer to wealth as optionality. If we're going to build that, let's make sure we have the values and knowledge to kind of live well with that.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to Maxim Advisory Group and learn more, what's the best way for them to reach out? And then what's your process? Like, say, I call you and I say, okay, I would like to work with you, do little, explain to me kind of how that would look like.
Well, Simon does this every day for us. So
Simon.
why don't you explain?
Oh, I was going to let you explain it. Typically, most people will contact us through the website, whether it be www.maximadvisorygroup.com, or they go through usually also our YouTube channel,
Yep.
Blueprint Financial, and they can also book a meeting through there. So either way to reach us is the easiest. And what we usually start with is just an introductory meeting where we sit down, we understand what your goals and concerns are. We see if you are fit. We explain how the process works, what the fees look like,
Hmm.
and just see if this is something they want to proceed with, and if we can actually help them as well. So yeah, start out by reaching to us so we can sit down and just have that first discussion. And it would be either with me, or we've got a couple appointment bookers in Barb, Megan, and Galen, and it would be one of those three as well that you would meet with the first sit down.
That's so great. I love that. I'm just thinking, I like the idea too. It has to make sense for both of you, as
Hmm.
opposed to, we'll take whatever comes in the door, or we only take you at this level. I think it has to be a mutual fit, just as how I feel about my practice. Not every client is the right client. And so it seems like you've also been very deliberate about what you're looking for, who's your ideal client that you can give the best value and most, success for, and forget the rest, because if it's not a fit, it's not going to be a successful relationship, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It comes back to that behavioral piece. Like we have to like and respect each other for this to
Yeah.
to work, right? We're talking serious stuff here, and it's
Yeah.
totally cool if we're not a fit, but I think we're very blessed to have so many people we love. And if we're wrapping up here, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
one thing I love about our work versus traditional accounting work is that you really are incentivized to take all comers. It's all about, the billable hours, whereas in our work, we know that they're going to be lifelong relationships. We built our
Yeah.
business so that it would be lifelong. We're not looking to do cookie cutter one-offs. And that in turn has actually added like a bit of a surprise to us as far as like the quality of people and how fulfilling the work is like we're
Hmm.
very, very blessed that way. But intentional, like our
Yeah.
financial planning, right? Like we have to design it the way we want it to be. And I think we're seeing some payoffs there for sure.
That's so great when you build something that makes
Hmm.
you happy, as opposed to
Totally.
something where you feel like you're under the gun, and you're under the thumb of your own business and your team, but instead it's fulfilling those values that matter to you the most and letting
Hmm.
you help the people you want to help the most. Must be very satisfying. I'm really excited for what you guys are building. And I'm looking forward to helping to do more cross-border immigration advisory as much as I can help, and with my team as well, because you guys are one of our partners at Ackah Business Immigration Law. And so
Hmm.
looking forward to sending more business cross-border to you in Canada and the US. I want to thank you both very much for joining me, Simon, Wong, Obed, Maurice. Thank you, Maxim Advisory Group, for your expertise. And you know where to find them. We'll provide all the details in the show notes. And next time, I look forward to talking to you on the Ask Canada Immigration podcast. But for now, we'll say goodbye and thank our guests very, very much.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Evelyn. Yeah.